Hello, everybody, and welcome to the lesson with finding the angle measurements with trig. This should be a review from what we did last year, but it'll be a full-on lesson so that you can see what you need to see. We're also practicing using Edpuzzle, so you'll have questions that you'll have to answer along the way, and know that Edpuzzle is a grade and it'll go into the grade book. All right, if you haven't done the do now, go into Google Classroom and do the do now. That's in there. That helps me with attendance. It helps me with getting some information and making sure that you got all the information that you need. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be calculating the missing angle. That's what we're going to be looking at right here. You're going to be given two pieces of information with the right triangle. We're going to concentrate on sine, cosine, and tangent. All right, an inverse function. An inverse function is when you go back that undoes something that we need to do. So in here, you can see that we're going to be talking about sine, and then the inverse is sine with a -1 at the top. So you can see that's like addition to subtraction. Addition and subtraction are, they undo each other if you're going to different, if you want to undo addition, you use subtraction. If you want to undo subtraction, you do addition. Same with multiplication and division, as well as for squaring in the square root. We're going to be concentrating on the one down here, where we're looking at the inverse operations for sine, cosine, and tangent. So here is a chart that's helpful. I would copy it into your notes if you want to do this, but basically what we're looking at in here is we're using this inverse function to be able to calculate the angle measurement. Notice that these lines, the BC and the AC, this right here, the angle ratio doesn't change. It's the same as what we normally do. This is TOA. You know, it's opposite. So if we're looking at angle A, BC is still our opposite. AC is still the side that's next to us. So we don't flip our ratio. So in the inverse of sine, cosine, and tangent, they are also called arc functions. Arc functions. So the inverse of tangent can be called the arc tangent. The inverse of sine is the arc sine. And the inverse of cosine is called the arc cosine. So, all right, to find the arc function, we use the following information. We have sine to the -1, cosine to the -1, and tangent to the -1. So in here we have the sine of x, which is the ratio value is 0.1115. We need to find the angle measurement of x. First thing we need to do is we need to find, we're going to use the inverse sine or the arc sine of 0.1115. So how do we put that into our calculator? We use the second button right here. And then if you look right above your sine, cosine, and tangent right here, there are your second buttons. So remember, we use our second button first. We push our second button, and then we're going to push the sine button. The blue button on our second calculator helps us access the information that's written in blue above our buttons. So we're going to push the second button and then the sine button, and that'll activate and put us into that arc sine function. So if we do that, we're going to have x is equal to the inverse sine or the arc sine of 0.1115. And you'll find that your angle measurement is 6.4. Again, we have our degrees symbol right here, which is our units. So if we're looking at the cosine of a number 0.8988, we need to find the angle measurements. Again, we need that inverse function, the inverse function. So we need the inverse function of whatever our answer is. These are the same. They're identical, whatever that ratio is. In this case, it could be 89/100, you know, something that's in there. In order to activate this, we're going to hit our second button, which is, again, right here at the top. and then our cosine button, and then we're going to put in our value of 0.8988, and that'll activate the number we get out is 25.9, and that is our angle measurements. That's our angle measurement. So these are called inverse or arc functions. So to find the angle from a triangle, here's some general rules. To find a missing angle from a right-angled triangle, we need to know two sides of the triangle. We can choose those. We can then choose the appropriate sign of sine, cosine, or tangent and use the calculator to identify the angle from the decimal value of the ratio. So we're going to take that fraction, we're going to reduce it down into a decimal, and then we're going to plug it into our calculator. So we need the decimal value of the ratio. So let's take a look at this example that we have right here. So this is our right angle. So this is our hypotenuse. And we're looking at angle C, so we're going to go across. This is our opposite and our adjacent. So we have two sides right here. We have the 6 centimeters and the 14 centimeters. And we have we have A and H. So in order to do this, we identify all the sides, and then we choose the ratio that has both of the letters that we're looking into. Let's take a look at this. We have the sign of whatever the measurement of angle C is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. We plug in those values. And then 6 divided by 14 in our calculator will give us 0.4286. Do you have to do 4 decimal places? No, but the more decimal places you do, the more accurate it is. So now we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to find our inverse sine. So again, we do our second button, and then we hit our cosine button right there, and it activates the blue functions that we have in our calculator. Once we get our answer out, it'll be 64.6. 64.6 is our angle measure. If we take a look at this one here, we have to do our A, H, and O. So this is our hypotenuse. This is our angle that's in question, is called X. That means this is our opposite. And then the one that's left is our adjacent. We're going to look at the tangent of this. The two values that have measurements are 8 centimeters and 3 centimeters. So we're going to plug those into our equation. 8 is the opposite, 3 is the adjacent, and our tangent is TOA. Remember, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So when we do that, we dip it down into our fraction value. We have the tangent of X is equal to 2.6667. And then we're going to, in order to get the angle measurement, we must do our inverse or our arc tangent. And the way we activate that is we do our second button. And then our button that says tangent. Second button and then tangent. And that'll give us our value. And then we have our units right here of degrees. So that's how you find the angle measurement. It's all using your calculator work. So make sure you use your calculator and make sure you have a scientific calculator. All right. Let's take a look at this one right here. Again, we do our A, H, and O. So we look at this right here is our opposite, because it's opposite our angle. Across from our 90 degrees is our hypotenuse, and the one that's left is our A. So the sine of our angle A, or in this case it would be Y. It should be a Y. The sine of our measurement of Y is the opposite, which is 10 centimeters over 12. Divide 10 by 12 and we get 0.8333. The sine of Y, we're going to use our inverse function. So we're going to use our calculator, our second button, and then the sine button. And we get those and we use this all through calculator work, and we find that the angle measurement is 56.4 degrees. Okay, that is it. So this is the angle measurement that goes right here. That's what we have in here, 56.4. Okay, thanks. Bye.